The hospital went from sterile silence to chaos in seconds. Dr. Hale was halfway down the corridor when the first gunshot shattered the lights. Alarms screamed, patients cried out. He ran, scrubbed slick with sweat, ducking into an exam room just as the door was kicked in. The man behind the gun didn't hesitate. A single shot slammed into Hale's chest. Pain flared white hot. He hit the floor hard, breath gone, vision narrowing. Instinct took over. He went limp. No movement, no sound. The bad guy watched him for a beat too long, then turned away. That's when the weight hit the floor behind him. A low, resonant sound like stone grinding together rolled through the room. The gunman froze. Behind Dr. Hale stood something massive, black-scaled, four-legged, dragon-like, claws dug into tile as if it were soft clay. Its eyes glowed faintly, the same cold blue as surgical lights at midnight. When it opened its mouth, rows of sharp teeth caught the light. The gunman didn't even scream. The creature lunged, caught him mid-step, and swallowed him whole in one clean motion. No struggle, no mess, just silence, followed by a muffled, panicked thrashing from deep within the beast. Dr. Hale's heart pounded so violently he thought his ribs might crack. The creature turned its massive head and looked down at him. Its gaze settled on the bullet wound. "I can heal you," it said, its voice deep but steady, "but I must finish digesting first." Hale tried to crawl back, failed. The creature lowered its head until its breath washed over him, warm, controlled. "Hide inside my mouth. You'll be safe." Its jaws opened, not threatening but deliberate, gesturing. Every rational part of Hale screamed no. Every medical instinct screamed, "You're bleeding out." The pain decided for him. He crawled forward. The creature closed its jaws carefully, keeping him shielded behind those same teeth that had ended the attacker moments earlier. The sounds from the creature's stomach faded, replaced by a low, rhythmic pulse. Then the swallow came. Hale slid down smoothly, gravity guiding him into warmth, not darkness. The stomach glowed faint blue, softly illuminated like bioluminescent water. The bullet wound burned, then cooled. The glowing contents gathered around his chest. The bullet was pushed free, gently, precisely, as if guided by invisible hands. The glow intensified, tissue knit, pain receded, breath returned. Dr. Hale stared in disbelief as his body healed itself around him. Outside, the creature stood guard. Inside, the doctor realized he was alive, whole, inside something that should not exist. And for the first time since the alarms began, his heart finally slowed. I felt the gunshot before I heard it. The hospital was already dying, sirens bleeding into one another, fear soaking the walls, but the crack of the weapon rang wrong. Too sharp, too deliberate. My territory had been violated. I stepped through the smoke and falling dust as the man fired again. He smiled when the doctor fell. I hate that smile. The doctor's heart was loud, fast, panicked. He played dead well, but hearts don't lie. His thudded like it was trying to escape his chest and run without him. The gunman turned away. That was my invitation. Tile shattered under my weight as I landed behind him. He smelled like metal and adrenaline. Cheap fear, overused. He didn't even have time to turn before my jaws closed around him. One bite, one swallow. His struggle was small, insignificant. I felt him hit my stomach alive, kicking, screaming, his panic echoing through me like a trapped animal in a cave. Good, let him understand what it means to be powerless. Then I looked down. The doctor was still alive. Blood soaked his scrubs. The bullet sat where it didn't belong, poisoning him slowly. His heart was frantic now, hammering against bone, begging for mercy it didn't think it deserved. I crouched, slowly, carefully. I didn't want him to mistake me for the thing I had just devoured. "I can heal you," I told him. My stomach clenched around the man inside me. Digestion takes time. Justice always does. The doctor tried to move, failed. Pain anchored him to the floor. "Hide," I said, opening my mouth. My stomach must finish first. He stared at my teeth, the same ones that had erased his attacker, and I could taste his fear in the air. He didn't trust me. He shouldn't. Trust gets people killed. But pain is persuasive. He crawled into my mouth, trembling, his heart nearly deafening now. I sealed my jaws, not tight, not cruel, just enough to keep him safe while the screaming inside me finally stopped. When I swallowed him, I did it slowly. I felt him slide down my throat, fragile and warm, every movement of his body mapped against my own. I felt his fear spike, then hesitate, as the glow welcomed him. My stomach lit up blue. Healing began the moment he arrived. The bullet resisted. Foreign objects always do. I forced it out, cell by cell, knitting flesh as if time itself were rewinding. His pain dulled, his breathing steadied, his heart, still loud, finally slowed to something survivable. I stood in the ruined hallway while I worked. One man digested, one man repaired, balance restored. Inside me, the doctor stared in stunned silence, realizing he was alive only because something far worse had decided he deserved to be. I am not a savior. But tonight, I chose him. I let him out once the work was finished. The glow faded. My stomach loosened. I bent low and opened my jaws, letting the doctor climb back into the ruined hallway. He stumbled when his feet hit the tile, hands immediately flying to his chest. No wound, no blood, only a faint warmth beneath the skin where death had been minutes earlier. He looked up at me. Humans always do that the same way, slowly, as if sudden movement might change what I am. Why? His voice shook, but he held eye contact. Why did you save me? I watched his heart. Still fast, but no longer frantic. No one should ever hurt a doctor, I said. You mend what others break. That matters. It was the simplest truth I had. He absorbed that in silence, breathing carefully, like a man relearning how to exist inside his own body. Then he straightened, a little unsteady, but determined. I won't tell anyone you were here, he said. I studied him, searching for the tremor of a lie. There wasn't one. Only awe and curiosity, already burning brighter than his fear. I dipped my head once in acknowledgement, then came the part I expected least. May I study you? The words landed heavier than any weapon. My claws flexed against the floor. Instinct said leave, disappear. Creatures like me survive because we remain myth, shadow, rumor. The moment humans understand something, they try to own it. But he didn't reach for a phone, didn't run, didn't scream. He waited. I would never expose you, he added. I just need to understand how you healed me. Curiosity, not greed, not ambition. Understanding. I hesitated, then lowered myself to the floor. Briefly, I said. Relief crossed his face like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. He moved carefully, the way one approaches a patient that might shatter if handled wrong. His hands hovered near my jaw first, not touching until I allowed it. Sharp, serrated, he murmured, peering into my mouth. But controlled. You didn't tear him apart. You swallowed. I opened wider so he could see. Rows of teeth, built for ending things quickly. He swallowed, forcing his professional calm back into place, and leaned closer. And yet you held me safely, behind them. His gaze drifted downward as a faint blue pulse flickered through my chest and along my ribs. That glow, he whispered. It's still active. It never fully stops, I replied. He moved to my side, placing a cautious hand against my chest. His touch was warm, light, respectful. My heartbeat slowed in response. He noticed immediately. You're regulating, like you're aware of your internal processes. I am. His attention shifted lower toward the core where healing happens. I felt his hesitation there. Less fear, more reverence. Your stomach, he said quietly. It didn't digest me. It distinguishes, I said. Threat from patient, harm from repair. And the man with the gun? Digested. The word hung between us, heavy and final. He didn't flinch. Instead, he nodded slowly as if filing it into some internal chart. Necessary, understood. His hands moved again, measuring my rib structure, the density beneath my scales, the steady warmth radiating through me. He was already mapping, already studying patterns, already building theories. Fear had left him. Now there was only wonder. I've studied medicine my entire life, he said, almost to himself. Cells, tissue repair, trauma response. But this. He looked up at me again. You're not just healing, you're rewriting damage. I said nothing, because that was true. Minutes passed in careful examination, my jaws, my chest, the rhythmic glow beneath my hide. He never pushed, never demanded. Every movement asked permission first. Finally, he stepped back. The hallway was quiet now, sirens distant, smoke settling. He looked smaller than before, but stronger, like someone who had crossed a line and couldn't return to ignorance. I'll keep my word, he said. I know. I rose, claws scraping lightly against tile. His heart quickened again, not with fear this time, anticipation, questions he would spend the rest of his life trying to answer. As I turned to leave, he spoke once more. Will I see you again? I paused in the shadow of the ruined corridor. That depends, I said, on who needs healing and who deserves it. Then I stepped into darkness, leaving him alone, with his science, his silence, and the impossible truth beating steadily inside his memory. Days passed before he saw me again. Not because I was hiding, because I was waiting. The doctor moved differently after that night, more alert, more deliberate. He checked shadows now, listened to silence like it might answer back. And when he worked with a quiet intensity, as if every patient reminded him of the moment his own life had been placed in something else's hands. I found him outside the hospital near dawn, alone, coffee untouched, eyes tired. He didn't flinch when I stepped from the darkness. He just exhaled. I was wondering when you'd show up again. You were looking, I said. Yes. He hesitated, then steadied himself. I need to study more, if you'll allow it. Curiosity again, persistent, controlled, not greedy. I lowered myself so he could approach. This time he was more confident. His hands moved with clinical precision, jawline, chest, ribs, the faint blue pulse beneath the scales. He listened to my breathing, counted it, timed it, then he paused. Something had changed in his expression. You're anchored, he murmured. Not just here, somewhere else. I watched him piece it together. You don't just exist, he continued. You belong somewhere, to someone. Silence stretched. I could have left. Instead, I told him, I am not independent, I said. I live inside a host. His eyes widened, not with fear, but fascination. A host, he repeated. A person, I clarified. Inside their body? Yes. The doctor absorbed that slowly, mind racing ahead of language. You mean your physical form exists, but you reside within someone's stomach? Like a secondary biological environment? Yes. He actually laughed once, breathless, not mocking, astonished. That's impossible, which means it's real. Then he straightened, professional focus snapping back into place. Does the host know? Yes. Are they harmed? No. That was enough for him. He nodded, accepting it without needing to meet the person, without asking for proof. The trust went both ways. After a moment, he asked quietly, Do you have a name? I studied him, weighing the question. Names create bonds, recognition, memory. Mastro, I said. He repeated it under his breath, committing it to memory. Mastro. The way he said it was careful, respectful, like addressing a patient. He resumed examining me, this time moving lower, attention drawn to my abdomen. His fingers pressed lightly against the scales there. He frowned. These are thicker, he said. Denser. Reinforced. Yes. For combat? For protection. He looked up. Protection of what? My host and myself. The stomach is where I reside, where I heal, where I am most vulnerable if threatened from outside. Understanding clicked into place behind his eyes. So if someone tried to harm your host, he said slowly, they'd be attacking you too. Yes. And those scales are meant to stop that. He ran his hand across them again, more gently this time, as if aware he was touching armor rather than skin. They're layered, he murmured, like natural plating, flexible but built to absorb force. Yes. Evolutionary? He asked. Intentional. That answer made him pause. You chose to become this? I became what was necessary. Silence settled between us again, heavier this time. The doctor wasn't just studying anatomy anymore, he was studying purpose. You protect, he said finally. I balance, I corrected. His gaze lingered on my abdomen, on the place where I lived when unseen. Your host, he began carefully. They must trust you. They do. And you trust them? Yes, that seemed to matter to him. He stepped back, studying all of me now, not as a monster, not even as a miracle, but as something integrated into another life, a presence, a guardian, a living system intertwined with a human body. Mastro, he said quietly, what you are, it changes everything I thought I understood about biology. It changes nothing, I replied. People are still hurt, you still heal them. He smiled faintly at that. Fair, he said. Then, almost as an afterthought, will I ever meet your host? I held his gaze. You already have, I said. Confusion flickered across his face, but only for a moment. Then realization began to form, slow and dawning, like sunrise pushing back night. And for the first time since we met, the doctor looked not at me, but past me, at the person I belonged to. He found Mastro again a few nights later. Not in the hospital, not in the open. In that quiet in-between hour when the world feels paused and the air carries every small sound. Mastro stepped from the shadows without urgency, massive frame settling with a low, grounded weight. The faint blue glow beneath his scales pulsed steadily like a heartbeat visible from the outside. The doctor didn't jump anymore. He just nodded. I was hoping I'd see you again. Mastro studied him. You were gentle, he said. With you? The doctor asked. With my host. The correction was immediate. Protective, certain, the doctor understood. She deserved that. Yes. Silence followed, not tense, evaluative. Then Mastro lowered himself further, chest close to the ground. You may continue your examination? The doctor hesitated only a second before stepping closer, slipping into that clinical focus again. His hands moved slowly over Mastro's jawline first, feeling the muscle density, the controlled strength beneath the scales. Open, he asked. Mastro did, slowly. His jaws parted, revealing rows of sharp, curved teeth, layered, precise, built for tearing and swallowing in a single motion. The same teeth that once made the doctor freeze now felt familiar. Dangerous, yes, but understood. He leaned in carefully, light angled into the cavern of Mastro's mouth. Enamel density is unreal, he murmured. No microfractures, no wear patterns like a typical predator. He moved deeper, examining the inner structure, palate, throat, the subtle ridges designed to guide rather than shred. It was anatomy built for control, not chaos. You swallowed me without injury, he said quietly. Even here, everything's structured to protect what you choose to keep safe. Yes. The doctor shifted his focus toward the back of the throat, watching the slow, rhythmic motion as Mastro breathed. Heat radiated outward, steady and alive. And digestion, he asked. Selective, I figured. He reached carefully, 2 fingers, gloved, clinical, never crossing a line of force, only observation. He traced the inner lining near the jaw hinge, noting the tissue's resilience, the faint glow threading through it like veins of light. You regulate internal environments consciously, don't you? He said. Pressure, acidity, healing response. Yes. That's not instinct, the doctor murmured. That's decision. Mastro didn't answer. Because it was true. The doctor withdrew slowly, giving Mastro space to close his jaws. The massive teeth slid back into place with quiet finality. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the doctor rested a hand lightly against Mastro's chest again, feeling that steady internal pulse. You're different around her, he said. Mastro's eyes shifted, narrowing slightly. Explain. You're controlled with everyone, the doctor said. But with her, you're anchored, like your baseline changes. I exist because of her, Mastro replied. My purpose aligns with her survival. That's more than survival, the doctor said softly. That's attachment. Mastro watched him for a long moment. Be careful with that word, he said. Humans confuse it with weakness. The doctor smiled faintly. In medicine, attachment is why people fight to live. That lingered. Mastro's gaze drifted briefly toward the space where his host would be, even though she wasn't present. A reflex, a constant awareness. The doctor noticed. He always noticed. May I continue studying you, he asked. Yes, Mastro said. Within reason. The doctor nodded, already thinking ahead. Skeletal structure, healing mechanisms, the strange interplay between creature and host. Questions stacked faster than he could ask them, but beneath the science, beneath the anatomy, there was trust forming. Carefully, quietly, like something alive, growing in the dark. The doctor should have stopped at the teeth. That would have been the professional boundary, the safe line. Observe, document, step back. But curiosity has momentum, and Mastro had already led him this far. The creature opened his jaws again without being asked this time, breath steady, controlled. The doctor angled his light inward, past the serrated rows, deeper than before, toward the throat where heat shimmered and the faint internal glow pulsed like distant lightning. He remembered the feeling, sliding down, the warmth, the healing. Now he was looking at the path from the outside. This is where I went, he murmured. Yes, Mastro replied. The doctor leaned in further, careful, deliberate. He watched the muscular contractions that guided swallowing, the layered tissue that could harden or soften depending on intent. It wasn't just anatomy, it was responsive, a system that adapted in real time. You controlled pressure here, he said, so I wouldn't be crushed. Yes. And temperature. Yes. And oxygen flow. Mastro didn't answer immediately because that one had required effort. Yes. The doctor's focus sharpened, the clinical detachment slowly blending with something else. Recognition. Gratitude. A need to understand not just how Mastro functioned, but why he had chosen to intervene so precisely. He stepped closer. Too close, maybe. Not physically. His movements were still measured, but emotionally. His questions slowed. His observations softened. You didn't just heal me, he said quietly. You protected me every second I was inside. Mastro watched him. The shift was subtle but unmistakable. The doctor wasn't studying a specimen anymore. He was studying an experience he'd survived because of Mastro. Personal. Mastro noticed the change in the doctor's breathing, the longer pauses between notes, the way his hand rested briefly against the lower jaw, not clinical, just grounding. Most creatures would have pulled away. Most would have closed their mouths, reasserted distance, reminded the human what they were dealing with. Mastro didn't, because the doctor had been gentle with you, because when given access to something vulnerable, he hadn't exploited it. So Mastro held still. The doctor peered deeper into the throat, watching the faint glow that pulsed from further down, the healing core, just out of sight. His voice lowered, almost reverent. "It's not just biology," he said. "It's intention. You decide what happens in there." "Yes." "You chose to let me live." "Yes." Silence followed, the kind that carries weight, not emptiness. The doctor finally pulled back slightly, exhaling like he'd been holding his breath longer than he realized. He didn't close his notebook, didn't step away fully. He just stayed near. "Mastro," he said after a moment, "when I was inside, you were aware of me the whole time, weren't you?" "Yes." "Not just physically." "No." "Emotionally, then. Consciously." That realization hit differently. The doctor nodded slowly, processing it, not as fear, but as connection. He had been inside another living mind, not just a body, and it had chosen care. His curiosity didn't disappear. It deepened, less about mechanisms, more about meaning. "You trust me," he said. "Yes." "Because of her." "Yes." That answer grounded everything. Not science, not fascination. Trust borrowed from you, Sai. The doctor stepped back then, finally giving Mastro space to close his jaws. The massive teeth slid back into place, the glow dimming to its usual faint pulse. For a moment, neither moved. Then the doctor gave a small nod, not as a researcher, not even as a patient, as someone who understood the line he just walked. "I won't forget what you did," he said. "I know," Mastro replied. And this time, when the doctor looked at him, there wasn't just curiosity in his eyes. There was respect, the kind that makes things personal without making them dangerous. Mastro shifted first, a subtle movement, shoulders lowering, head angling, not threatening, but deliberate. The doctor noticed too late. In one smooth motion, Mastro leaned forward and scooped him up, jaws closing carefully around him. Not a bite, a hold. The doctor reacted on instinct, bracing his hands against the inside of the jaw, trying to orient himself. There wasn't much room. Warmth surrounded him. The air was humid, heavy with the steady rhythm of Mastro's breathing. His lower body slid slightly backward, halfway into the throat. He froze, waiting for the swallow that didn't come. Mastro didn't move, didn't tighten, didn't push him deeper. He simply held him there, cradled inside his mouth, shielded behind rows of sharp teeth that remained locked outward, away from him. The doctor struggled once more, lightly, testing space, then stopped. Because nothing was happening. No pressure, no digestion, just containment, protection. He exhaled slowly and shifted his weight, settling onto his stomach along the broad surface of Mastro's tongue. It flexed beneath him, alive but controlled, adjusting to support his balance rather than disrupt it. The heat wasn't suffocating. The breathing wasn't erratic. Everything inside was steady, intentional. Mastro spoke, voice resonating around him rather than through him. "You were safe here once." The doctor swallowed, steadying his breathing. "Yes, I wanted you to understand it from this side." He lay still for a moment, absorbing the environment, the slow rise and fall with each breath, the subtle muscle tension that kept him from sliding further back, the absolute control Mastro maintained over every movement. His lower half rested near the throat entrance, but the muscles there stayed firm, holding position. No pull, no reflex, just restraint. "You're not going to swallow," the doctor said. "No." "Why?" Mastro's answer came without hesitation. "Because you trust me." That landed heavier than any physical pressure. The doctor relaxed, the last of the instinctive tension leaving his shoulders. His hands rested lightly against the inner jaw, grounding himself. The space was tight, yes. Close, but not threatening. Strangely stabilizing, like being held in place during turbulence. "I can feel how controlled you are," he said quietly. "Every movement is deliberate." "Yes." "You're protecting me in here." "Yes." The doctor shifted slightly, finding a more comfortable position along the tongue's surface. The warmth, the steady breathing, the absence of sudden motion, it all combined into something unexpected. Calm. Not safety in the human sense. but the certainty of being inside something that had chosen very specifically not to harm him. His voice softened. This is what it was like before the healing, isn't it? Similar. You were aware of everything. Yes. The doctor let his head rest sideways, listening to the internal rhythm surrounding him. Not a heartbeat. Mastro's core was deeper than that, but a steady biological cadence that filled the space. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't trying to escape. He was observing, understanding. After a while, he spoke again. It's comfortable, he admitted, almost surprised at himself. Mastro didn't respond immediately, because he understood what the doctor meant. Not comfort like rest, comfort like certainty. No deception, no sudden violence, no chaos, just controlled presence. After a few more breaths, Mastro carefully tilted his head forward and opened his jaws again, letting the doctor slide gently back out onto solid ground. The air felt colder immediately. The doctor sat up, adjusting, reorienting, then looked up at Mastro, eyes wide but steady. You wanted me to experience it, he said. Yes. Why? Mastro watched him for a long moment. So you understand, he said, that when I hold something, I choose what happens to it. The doctor nodded slowly, not afraid, just aware. And now, more than ever, personal. Mastro watched him straighten his scrubs, watched the doctor regain that calm, professional posture he carried so naturally. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hallway was quiet. The world felt far away. Finally, Mastro broke the silence. You are under my protection now, he said. The doctor looked up at him, unsure if he'd heard correctly. What do you mean? Mastro lowered his head until they were eye level. His voice was steady, matter of fact, not dramatic. I mean exactly that. No harm will come to you while I exist. The doctor let out a small, nervous laugh. That's a big promise. I do not make small ones. He searched Mastro's face, trying to decide if this was some kind of figure of speech. It wasn't. The creature didn't speak in exaggerations. You saved me once, the doctor said quietly. You don't owe me anything else. This is not debt, Mastro replied. It is choice. The words settled between them like something solid. The doctor folded his arms, thinking it through. So you're saying you'll keep me safe. From what? Violence, illness, random accidents? From what I am able to prevent, Mastro said, until the day your days are over. A long silence followed, not uncomfortable, just heavy with meaning. The doctor finally exhaled. That's a lifetime commitment. Yes, most people don't get that kind of guardian angel. I am not an angel, the doctor smiled faintly. No, definitely not. He looked at Mastro with a new expression now, part gratitude, part disbelief, part quiet relief. I spend my life protecting other people, he said. It's strange to think someone's decided to do the same for me. Mastro tilted his head slightly. You protect my host, he said. You treated her gently. You respected her boundaries. That earned this. The doctor nodded slowly. So as long as I'm alive, he said, you'll be watching over me. Yes. Even when I'm old and gray? Yes. Even when I'm no longer useful as a doctor? Mastro's eyes glowed faintly. You are not valuable because of what you do, he said. You are valuable because of who you are. That hit harder than any medical diagnosis ever had. The doctor swallowed, unexpectedly moved. Thank you, he said quietly. Mastro gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Live your life, he said. Do your work. Help those who need it. I will. And know, Mastro continued, that you are never unguarded again. The doctor looked up at the massive creature who had once swallowed him to save his life and now promised to stand beside him for the rest of it. He didn't feel afraid. He felt safe. Guess I've got the best backup plan in the world, he said, with a small smile. Mastro allowed the faintest hint of amusement. Indeed. And from that day on, the doctor walked through his life with an invisible protector at his side, unseen by the world but very real, until the last of his days. The doctor was mid-note when the door slammed open. He and Mastro had been in their usual quiet routine, measurements, observations, that familiar calm that settled whenever the creature allowed himself to be studied. The room felt safe, predictable. Then it wasn't. Boots hit the floor hard. A stranger burst in, eyes wild, voice sharp, something metal flashing in his hand. The kind of person who brought chaos wherever he went. Back away from the thing, the man barked at the doctor. Now! The doctor froze, instinctively stepping back. Before he could even speak, Mastro moved. Not fast, not frantic, just purposeful. The massive creature rose from his relaxed position and placed himself directly between the doctor and the intruder, blocking the line of sight with a wall of dark scales. The bad guy laughed nervously. Big Lizard isn't going to scare me. Mastro's head lowered, glowing eyes locking onto him. You threaten what is under my protection, he said calmly. The man lifted his weapon. That was his mistake. Mastro turned slightly so the doctor could see, making no effort to hide what was about to happen. You have studied how I heal, he said quietly. Now you will see how I defend. Before the man could react, Mastro lunged, one smooth motion. No struggle, no chaos, just jaws closing and a single decisive swallow. The room went silent. The weapon clattered to the floor, thus useless and forgotten. The doctor stood there, stunned, not by the act itself, but by the absolute control behind it. No destruction, no mess, just removal of a threat, clean and final. Mastro turned back to him, expression unchanged. You are unharmed? He asked. The doctor swallowed hard. Yes. Good. He stepped aside again as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened and settled back down on the floor with a low, grounding breath. The doctor stared at him for a long moment. You did that for me, he said quietly. Yes. You didn't hesitate. No. The doctor let out a shaky exhale, equal parts grateful and awed. I think I just got the most dramatic demonstration of protective instinct in medical history. Mastro's eyes softened slightly. You needed to see, he said. Understanding requires context. The doctor managed a small, nervous smile. I think I've got plenty of context now. He looked at Mastro, not as a monster, not even as a mystery, but as something steadfast, something that had chosen him. Thank you, he said. Mastro dipped his head. Always. The silence didn't last long. As the room settled, the doctor became aware of something he hadn't expected, faint, muffled movement. A distant thumping, like someone pounding on a locked door far underground. He glanced at Mastro, eyes widening a little. I can hear him, the doctor whispered. Just barely. Mastro didn't look surprised. Of course, he replied. He is still alive. The doctor shifted uneasily. The reality of what had just happened was sinking in now that the immediate danger was gone. What happens to him? He asked. Mastro considered the question for a moment. He remains contained, he said simply. As if to emphasize the point, a low rumble passed through Mastro's body. The scales along his abdomen tightened, muscles contracting with deliberate control. Not violent, measured. Firm. The faint, struggling sound faded. The doctor watched, fascinated and slightly unnerved. You're holding him, he said. Yes. Like a restraint. Yes. Mastro turned his head toward him. He cannot harm you. He cannot harm anyone. The doctor nodded slowly, understanding. There was no chaos here, no reckless destruction. Just a threat neutralized and secured, the way a doctor might immobilize an injury to prevent further damage. It was strange to see such careful discipline from something so powerful. You don't panic, the doctor murmured. You don't react out of anger. I react out of necessity, Mastro answered. Nothing more. Another faint movement came from within, weaker this time. Mastro adjusted again, gently reinforcing the hold. The doctor swallowed. So you control everything that happens in there? Yes. And you choose what happens next? Yes. That realization settled over him like a weight. The creature he studied wasn't ruled by instinct. Every action was intentional. After a moment, the doctor let out a long breath. I think I finally understand, he said. Protection, not punishment. Mastro inclined his head. Exactly. The room grew quiet again, the danger fully past. The doctor returned to his notes, though his hands were a little less steady than before, and behind him, calm and unmovable, Mastro kept watch, guardian, jailer, and shield all at once. Hours passed. The crisis faded into memory the way emergencies always do, sharp at first, then slowly dulled by routine and exhaustion. The doctor finished his notes, cleaned up the room, and tried to pretend it had been an ordinary day. It hadn't been. Mastro watched him quietly. He noticed small things, the slower movements, the longer pauses between thoughts, the way the doctor rubbed his eyes and rolled his shoulders as if they weighed more than usual. You are tired? Mastro said at last. The doctor gave a weary smile. That obvious? Yes, he tried to wave it off. Long day, stressful situation, I'll be fine. Mastro studied him more carefully. Humans were fragile in ways he wasn't. Fatigue made them careless, vulnerable. I can keep you safe while you rest, Mastro offered. The doctor looked up, confused. I appreciate that, but I'm not in danger anymore. I mean inside, Mastro clarified. The doctor froze. Inside your stomach? Yes. For a moment, he just stared, clearly caught between logic and disbelief. You're suggesting I take a nap inside a dragon? A protected space, Mastro corrected. Warm, quiet, secure. You have been there before. That was for healing, the doctor pointed out, and now it would be for rest. He hesitated. The idea sounded absurd, and yet he remembered the strange calm he had felt before, the steady rhythm, the sense of being utterly shielded from the world. Still, he shook his head. I don't know, Mastro. That's a lot. You would not be harmed, Mastro said gently. You would simply sleep. The doctor rubbed his face, exhaustion finally catching up to him. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only heavy bones and a mind that wanted to shut down. He yawned despite himself. I really am tired, he admitted. Mastro lowered his head patiently. Then allow me to help. Another pause. Finally, the doctor let out a small, defeated laugh. You know this is the strangest offer I've ever accepted. But you accept? He considered it one last time and nodded. All right, just be gentle. Always. With careful movements, Mastro opened his jaws and allowed the doctor to step inside willingly, guiding him the way someone might guide a patient to a bed. There was no rush, no force, only steady, deliberate care. The familiar warmth surrounded him again. Moments later, the doctor settled into the softly glowing space he now recognized. The environment adjusted around him, air comfortable, pressure light, sounds muted to a gentle rhythm. It felt less like being swallowed and more like being tucked away from the world. His eyelids grew heavy almost immediately. You will be safe here, Mastro's voice echoed softly. I know, the doctor murmured. Within minutes, sleep finally claimed him. Outside, Mastro remained still and watchful, guarding the quiet life resting inside him. For a while at least, the doctor had nothing to fear and nowhere he needed to be, just rest. Time moved differently while the doctor slept. Inside Mastro, there was no ticking clock, no fluorescent lights, no hospital intercom barking orders every few minutes, just warmth, steady rhythm, and the quiet certainty of being guarded. From the outside, Mastro remained perfectly still. To anyone else, he would have looked like a statue, massive, dark, unmoving. But inside, he was carefully monitoring everything. The doctor's breathing, his heartbeat, even the subtle tension in his muscles as real rest finally took hold. Humans rarely rested properly. Mastro knew that. They carried too much, pushed too far, convinced themselves exhaustion was normal. So he kept watch. Hours passed. Eventually, the doctor stirred, shifting slightly as consciousness returned. He woke not with the jolt of an alarm or the panic of a nightmare, but slowly, like someone surfacing from deep water. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he remembered. Oh, right, he murmured to himself. Dragon nap. As if sensing the change immediately, Mastro spoke. You are awake. The doctor stretched as much as the limited space allowed and laughed softly. I am. And strangely, I feel better than I have in weeks. Your body required rest, Mastro replied. Apparently, inside a mythical creature was the best place to get it. Mastro made a low sound that might have been amusement. Are you ready to return? Yeah, the doctor said. I think so. With the same care as before, Mastro adjusted his posture and opened his jaws, letting the doctor step back out into the room. Cool air hit his face, and he took a deep breath, blinking as his eyes adjusted. He looked refreshed, no longer worn down, no longer running on fumes. Okay, he said, rolling his shoulders. That officially beats every on-call room bed I've ever used. Mastro lowered his head to meet his gaze. You were safe, he said simply. The doctor nodded. I was. He paused, then added more quietly. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me do that. You trusted me first, Mastro replied. Fair point. The doctor gathered his things, feeling oddly grounded, like the day had been reset. I should probably get back to normal life now, he said. Patience, paperwork, pretending none of this is real. You will continue your work, Mastro said. Of course, and I will continue to watch over you. The doctor smiled. I'm getting used to that idea. He headed for the door, then stopped and looked back. Mastro? Yes. Don't make a habit of putting me to bed, he joked. People might get jealous. Mastro tilted his head slightly. I only protect what is important. The doctor felt that settle somewhere deep and meaningful. See you soon, he said. Yes. As the door closed behind him, Mastro remained where he was, silent guardian, impossible companion, content in the knowledge that the doctor would walk the world a little safer now, And whenever exhaustion, danger, or darkness found him again, there would always be a place waiting. The calm never lasts in places like hospitals. They are crossroads for too many lives, too many tragedies, too many enemies, too many desperate people. Peace is always temporary. The alarms went off late that evening, not the soft tones for codes or emergencies. These were harsher, chaotic. Security alerts, shouting in the halls, the kind of noise that makes every trained instinct snap awake. The doctor was finishing a chart when the first explosion rattled the windows. What now? He muttered, already moving. He ran into the corridor just as staff scattered. Someone screamed that armed men were in the building. Another shout followed, something about a hostage situation on the lower floor. The doctor didn't even think. He moved to help. That was his mistake. In the confusion, he turned a corner at the wrong moment and found himself face to face with one of them, a man with fear in his eyes and a weapon in his hands. Don't move. The attacker barked. The doctor froze, hands raised. I'm just a physician. I don't want any trouble. Too bad, the man snapped. The gun lifted. The doctor's heart hammered so hard he could hear it in his ears. He thought of Mastro, of protection, of promises. But Mastro wasn't here. A shot rang out. Pain exploded across the doctor's side as he was thrown backward into the wall. Another round grazed his shoulder. He collapsed to the floor, vision spinning. For the first time since meeting Mastro, he felt truly helpless again. The attacker advanced, ready to finish it. Then the hallway lights flickered. The air changed. Cold, heavy. The man froze. From the far end of the corridor came the unmistakable sound of something massive moving, claws scraping tile, a low growl rolling like distant thunder. The attacker turned just in time to see shadow swallow the hallway. Mastro arrived. Not slowly, not calmly, instantly. He placed himself over the doctor, shielding him with his body as more gunfire erupted. Bullets struck scales and fell uselessly to the ground. The creature's eyes burned bright. You threatened what I protect, Mastro said, voice shaking the walls. The attacker didn't get a chance to run. Mastro lunged. The danger ended in a single decisive motion. When silence returned, Mastro turned back to the doctor. Blood was spreading beneath him. His breathing was shallow. Mastro? The doctor whispered weakly. I am here, Mastro replied. He lowered his head urgently, nudging the doctor gently. You are hurt. The doctor tried to smile. Yeah, figured that part out. There was no time for hesitation now. With careful speed, Mastro gathered him up and, just as before, carried him into the safety of his mouth. This time, not for rest, for survival. I will heal you, Mastro said firmly. The doctor managed a faint nod as darkness crept at the edges of his vision. I trust you, he whispered. Then the world faded, and once again his life rested in the hands and the stomach of something impossible. Mastro didn't waste a second. The moment the doctor lost consciousness, the world around them shrank to a single priority: keep him alive. He moved through the shattered hallway like a storm given purpose, ignoring alarms, smoke, chaos. None of it mattered. The hospital could burn to the ground. His concern was the fragile life now resting inside him. Carefully, deliberately, he swallowed. Not roughly, not hurried, controlled. The doctor slipped into the familiar glowing warmth, but this time there was no calm wonder, no quiet curiosity, only urgency. Blood loss, trauma, shock. Mastro felt it all as clearly as if it were happening to his own body. Healing began immediately. The faint blue light surged brighter, wrapping around the wounds with precise focus. Bullets were forced free, damaged tissue coaxed back together, pain dulled and erased layer by layer. Outside, the attack on the hospital was still unfolding. Inside Mastro, there was only one patient. He adjusted pressure and temperature carefully, keeping the doctor stabilized while the internal process worked. Breathing, heartbeat, all monitored, all supported. Stay with me, Mastro murmured, even though the doctor couldn't hear him. You are not finished. Minutes stretched into an hour. By the time emergency responders finally secured the building, the man they were searching for was already beyond their reach, resting safely in a place no scanner or surgeon could access. Eventually, the doctor stirred. His first sensation was warmth, then comfort, then confusion. Mastro? He whispered. Yes. A relieved breath left him. I thought I was done. You were close, Mastro admitted. The doctor let out a weak laugh. Good thing I've got the best bodyguard in existence. Yes, he shifted slightly, testing himself. No pain, no weakness, just the strange, familiar glow and the knowledge that he'd been pulled back from the edge once again. You saved me, he said quietly, as promised. The doctor closed his eyes for a moment. Guess you meant that until your days are over part, pretty literally. I did. Silence followed, grateful, heavy, sincere. Hospital okay? The doctor finally asked. The threat has ended, Mastro replied. You are the only concern that remains. The doctor exhaled, letting relief wash through him. Then I think, he said softly, I'll just rest here a little longer. You may, Mastro answered, and once again, guarded within impossible safety, the doctor allowed himself to breathe, alive because something extraordinary had decided his story wasn't finished yet. The crisis was over. At least that's what the world outside believed. Mastro lay motionless on the cold hospital floor, massive body curled protectively around the place where the doctor rested safely within him. The chaos upstairs had quieted, sirens fading, voices calming, order slowly reclaiming the building. Then footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy, cautious, official. Security. A guard turned the corner, flashlight sweeping ahead of him, and stopped dead in his tracks. There, in the dim emergency lighting, was something no training manual could have prepared him for. A towering, black-scaled creature resting calmly in the middle of a hospital hallway. The man barely had time to react. He took one shaky step back and collapsed. Just like that. No struggle, no shout, simply unconscious. Inside Mastro, the doctor felt the subtle shift in tension and stirred. What happened? He asked, still groggy. We have been seen, Mastro replied. Seen? The doctor straightened as much as the space allowed. By who? Security. A pause. And you knocked him out? Not intentionally, Mastro said. Humans sometimes lose consciousness when confronted with things they cannot process. The doctor let out a tired sigh. Yeah, that tracks. Mastro carefully rose to his feet, ensuring not to jostle his passenger, and leaned down to examine the fallen guard. A gentle breath, a brief check. He is unharmed, Mastro confirmed. Only sleeping. Good, the doctor murmured. Last thing we need is paperwork for fainted due to dragon. Mastro considered the situation. Being discovered was a complication. Hospitals were not places for secrets to remain hidden. We must leave, he said. Agreed, the doctor replied, preferably before more people show up with questions we can't answer. With slow, deliberate movements, Mastro stepped away from the main corridors and toward a set of service doors the doctor had used countless times, the underground maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the building. Dark, quiet, forgotten, perfect. He slipped inside without a sound. The concrete walls swallowed him in shadow, and the chaos of the hospital above faded to a distant hum. Here, there were no cameras, no curious staff, no accidental witnesses. Safe again. Mastro settled into a secluded corner of the tunnels and finally allowed himself to relax. Inside him, the doctor exhaled. That was close, he said. Yes. Guess our secret almost got a little too public. Yes. The doctor chuckled weakly. You really don't do normal, do you? No. A comfortable silence followed. Eventually, the doctor spoke again. Thanks for checking on the guard. I protect life, Mastro replied simply. The doctor smiled to himself. Yeah, he said. I know you do. Hidden beneath the hospital, away from prying eyes and fragile human understanding, they remained unseen, guardian and patient once more. For now, the world above would stay unaware, and that was exactly how it needed to be. The unconscious guard woke to flashing lights and confused voices. Two other security officers were kneeling beside him, shaking his shoulders, checking his pulse. Hey, you with us? One asked. The guard blinked, sitting up slowly. Yeah, I'm fine. You just dropped, the second officer said. No injury, no head trauma. What happened? He opened his mouth to answer and froze. How exactly do you explain what you saw without sounding completely insane? There was something in the hallway, he said carefully. Something like what? The guard swallowed. Big, black, looked like a dragon or something. The other two exchanged a glance. A dragon, one repeated flatly. I know how that sounds, the guard insisted. But I swear on my badge, I saw it. Right there near the west wing. Maybe you hit your head harder than we thought, the other muttered. I didn't hit my head, he snapped, then lowered his voice. Look, I'm telling you, there was a creature, huge, and it was just lying there. They searched the area thoroughly, no damage, no footprints, no sign of anything remotely matching his description. just an empty corridor. Eventually, the report went in as possible stress-related fainting episode, the kind of paperwork everyone politely ignored. Upstairs, meanwhile, a different kind of concern was growing. Has anyone seen Dr. Hale? The question started small, one nurse asking another, then spread. He hadn't returned to his station after the attack. His phone went unanswered. His office was empty. His car was still in the parking lot. Doctors and nurses began retracing steps. He was last seen near the surgical wing. No, I saw him heading toward radiology. Security was notified. A missing doctor after an armed incident was not something anyone took lightly. Teams began checking rooms, closets, storage areas, calling his name through the halls. No response, no trace. Down in the underground tunnels, completely unaware of the growing search above, the real Dr. Hale stretched and yawned inside the safest hiding place in the building. Mastro, he said quietly, I think people are probably looking for me by now. Yes, Mastro replied. You might want to let me out before they organize a full rescue operation. A low rumble of agreement echoed around him. Carefully, Mastro prepared to return his patient to the world above, where confusion, rumors, and very concerned coworkers were already preparing to turn the hospital upside down to find him. And none of them had any idea that the missing doctor was, at that very moment, completely safe, just not in any place they would ever think to look. Mastro waited until the tunnels were quiet. Only when the distant footsteps faded and the building above settled back into uneasy routine did he carefully shift and open his jaws. Time to return, he said. The doctor climbed out slowly, brushing off his scrubs and blinking at the dim concrete walls. Back to reality, huh? Yes. He stretched, feeling completely restored, as if the chaos of the day had never touched him. You realize I'm about to walk into a whole lot of questions. I will remain unseen, Mastro replied. As always. Good plan. The doctor made his way up the maintenance stairs and slipped back into the main hospital corridors, trying to look as normal and undramatic as possible. He didn't make it 10 steps before a nurse spotted him. Dr. Hale, she gasped. There you are. We've been looking everywhere. Within minutes, he was surrounded, staff relieved, slightly frantic, full of questions. Are you okay? Where were you? We thought you were hurt. The doctor raised his hands calmly. I'm fine, everyone. Really. What happened? One of the other physicians asked. Security said you were last seen near the attack zone. He took a breath and delivered the simplest, most believable version of the truth. I was caught near the incident, he explained. When things got dangerous, I found a safe place to hide and stayed there until everything calmed down. Where? Someone asked. Storage area in the lower tunnels, he said without missing a beat. Seemed like the smartest option at the time. That answer made sense. No one questioned it. People nodded, satisfied. Smart move, a nurse said. Better safe than a hero. Exactly, the doctor agreed. Reports were updated. Concern turned into relief. Within an hour, the hospital had accepted the official story. Dr. Hale had simply done what any sensible person would do. Hide, wait, survive. Only he knew how incomplete that explanation really was. Later that evening, as things finally returned to something resembling normal, the doctor slipped away to a quiet corner and spoke softly under his breath. Nice job staying invisible, he murmured. From somewhere unseen, a familiar voice answered, Always. The doctor smiled to himself. To everyone else, he was just another staff member who'd made it through a bad day. But he knew the truth. He hadn't hidden alone. The calm never stays for long. A week after the attack, life had almost returned to routine. The hospital was busy, the halls noisy, the staff tired but steady. The doctor was finishing a late shift when a man he didn't recognize stepped into his office doorway. Something in the stranger's eyes felt wrong immediately. Dr. Hale? The man asked, voice too friendly. Yes? The door closed behind him. The doctor's instincts flared. Can I help you? The man reached into his jacket. Before the doctor could react, the air in the room changed. Heavy, cold, impossibly still. Mastro was there. He didn't burst in. He didn't roar. He simply appeared behind the attacker like darkness taking shape. In one fluid motion, he stepped between them, claws pinning the man gently but firmly to the floor. Not crushing, not injuring, just holding. The attacker froze, staring up into glowing eyes and rows of teeth that promised consequences far beyond anything he had imagined. Mastro leaned down, studying him the way a scientist studies a specimen, calm, methodical, terrifyingly patient. You came to harm what I protect, Mastro said. The man tried to struggle. It didn't matter. Mastro tested him the way he tested all threats, reading movement, breathing, fear. His tongue flicked once through the air, not to hurt, only to sense. The attacker went rigid at the simple, unavoidable realization of how powerless he was. Fear filled the room like smoke. Mastro's favorite language, a deep, resonant growl rolled from his chest, low and deliberate. His stomach answered with a hollow rumble that seemed to vibrate the very floor. I have not eaten in some time, Mastro said quietly, and my stomach is calling. The attacker finally found his voice. Wait, please. There was no waiting. With effortless strength, Mastro lifted him away from the doctor, ending the danger in the same clean, decisive way he always did. One motion. One swallow. Silence returned. The doctor stood there, breath held, watching the last trace of threat disappear without struggle, without chaos, just finality. Mastro turned back to him, calm as ever. You are unharmed? The doctor nodded slowly. Yes. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't frightened. He was stunned, but not scared. I think, he said after a long moment, that's the fastest security response in history. Mastro settled back beside him, the deep rumble fading. Protection requires decisiveness. The doctor exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Remind me never to skip lunch around you, he muttered. Mastro tilted his head slightly. Noted. And just like that, the room returned to normal, except for the undeniable truth that the doctor once again owed his safety to the quiet guardian at his side. The room grew quiet again after the brief chaos. Too quiet. The doctor stood where he was, still processing what had just happened. Mastro remained beside him, calm and unmoving, as if the entire incident had been nothing more than a minor interruption. Then the doctor noticed it. A deep, rolling sound coming from within the creature, low and powerful, like distant thunder trapped inside a mountain. Mastro's stomach. The doctor could hear it clearly now. Strong, steady, purposeful. And beneath that rhythm, faint at first, was something else. Muffled movement, panicked but already fading. The bad guy. The doctor swallowed hard, listening as the brief struggle echoed softly through Mastro's massive frame. It wasn't violent. There were no terrible noises, no chaos, just a few desperate moments, and then silence. Mastro shifted slightly, the rumble within him settling into a slow, satisfied cadence. The doctor let out a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That doesn't last long, does it? He asked quietly. No, Mastro replied. There was no menace in his tone, only certainty. The doctor walked a little closer and rested a hand against Mastro's side, feeling the deep vibration beneath the scales. It was oddly grounding, like standing beside a powerful engine doing exactly what it was built to do. You really are built to end threats, he murmured. Yes. The doctor nodded slowly. And to protect. Always. Another low growl rolled through Mastro's stomach, steady and final. The doctor wasn't frightened. Not anymore. He understood now that everything Mastro did had a purpose, a line he never crossed. That sound, the doctor said after a moment, it's strangely reassuring. It means you are safe, Mastro answered. The doctor managed a small smile. Hard to argue with that. He stepped back, straightening his coat. Guess I owe you again. You owe me nothing, Mastro replied. Your safety is reason enough. The doctor glanced toward the door, then back at his impossible guardian. Well, he said lightly, at least your security system is very thorough. Mastro tilted his head. Efficiency is important. The doctor laughed under his breath. Can't fault that logic. And with the danger gone and the world once again quiet, the doctor returned to his work, secure in the knowledge that no matter what walked through that door, he would never face it alone. The doctor finally gave up pretending he was going to get more work done. He stretched out on the small couch in his office, one arm over his eyes, stomach still muttering complaints from the earlier coffee incident. Long day, he sighed. Mastro stood quietly near the window, watching him the way he always did, patient, attentive. You are still uncomfortable, Mastro observed. A little, the doctor admitted. Better than before, but yeah, I'll survive. There was a brief pause as if Mastro were considering something. I could help more directly, he said. The doctor cracked an eye open. You already helped plenty. I mean internally. That got his full attention. Internally. the doctor repeated. Yes, the way I remain with my host, I could rest within you for a time, monitor your body, ease the discomfort, keep watch over your organs. The doctor sat up slowly. Inside my stomach? He asked, half amused, half uncertain. Yes. He rubbed the back of his neck. That's a pretty unusual offer. You would not be harmed, Mastro assured him. I would not interfere, only observe and stabilize. The doctor thought it over. He trusted Mastro completely. Still, the idea of sharing his own body, even temporarily, was new territory. And you're sure it's safe? He asked. Completely. Another long moment passed. Finally, the doctor exhaled. Well, he said with a small smile, after everything we've been through, I guess this isn't the strangest thing anymore. Mastro inclined his head. Then you agree? All right, the doctor said. Just go easy on me. I always do. Rather than swallowing or anything dramatic, Mastro simply stepped closer and seemed to fade, his form dissolving into that familiar soft blue glow. The light gathered gently around the doctor and, with a warm, weightless sensation, settled inward. The doctor blinked. Oh, he murmured. That's not what I expected. There was no pain, no pressure, just a mild feeling of comfortable fullness, like having eaten a good meal. A quiet steadiness spread through him, soothing the last traces of irritation in his stomach. Inside, Mastro's voice echoed calmly. I am here. The doctor looked around his empty office and laughed softly. Well, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. There's a dragon in my stomach. Not a dragon, Mastro corrected. A guardian. Right, my mistake. He leaned back again, already feeling oddly relaxed. I can monitor your systems, Mastro continued. Your heart, lungs, digestion. If anything is amiss, I will know. Like an internal security system, the doctor said. Yes. The idea, which had sounded bizarre a few minutes ago, now felt strangely reassuring. So I'm just sitting here with you inside me, keeping watch? The doctor asked. Correct. He smiled to himself. You know, most people get therapy dogs. I get a supernatural bodyguard. There was a faint ripple of amusement in Mastro's tone. Rest, he said. I will handle the rest. The doctor settled back on the couch, tension melting away. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't alone in his own quiet office. And somehow knowing Mastro was there, watching over him from within, made everything feel perfectly safe. Strangely quiet that evening. Too quiet. I knew that feeling. The subtle absence you notice only when someone important isn't where they usually are. Mastro hadn't come home in a while, hadn't checked in the way he normally did, and that left an odd emptiness I couldn't quite ignore. So I went looking. Hospitals aren't exactly small places, but I had a good idea where to start. If Mastro wasn't with me, there was only one other person he ever spent time with. The doctor. I found his office door half open, the light still on. Through the small window, I could see him resting on the couch, eyes closed, looking calmer than I'd ever seen him after a long shift. I knocked lightly and stepped inside. Hey, I said, have you seen Mastro? He hasn't been around. The doctor's eyes snapped open. Instinctively, without even thinking, he placed an arm protectively over his stomach. It was such a small movement, but I recognized it immediately. I blinked. Oh, I said slowly, he's with you, isn't he? The doctor hesitated, clearly weighing how much to say. Then he let out a small, guilty smile. Yeah, he admitted. He is. I laughed in surprise rather than anger. You've got to be kidding. I can explain. You don't have to, I interrupted, genuinely impressed. That's actually amazing. The doctor looked at me, confused. You're not upset? Upset? I repeated. No way. I sat down in the chair across from him, shaking my head in disbelief. Do you have any idea how big of a deal that is? He frowned slightly. I thought you might think I overstepped. Overstepped? I laughed again. Mastro doesn't do that with just anyone. Ever. The doctor relaxed a little. He offered, he said. Said he could help with some stomach trouble I was having. Keep watch over things. I nodded knowingly. Yeah, that sounds like him. I leaned forward, studying the doctor with new appreciation. If he's willing to stay inside you, even for a little while, it means he trusts you, completely. The doctor glanced down at his stomach, then back at me. I got that impression. You should be proud, I told him. He's protective of me, sure, but he's incredibly selective about other people, especially doctors. The doctor smiled. Guess I passed the test then. More than passed, I said. You're officially in very rare territory. Inside him, Mastro finally made his presence known. She is correct, his voice rumbled softly. The doctor jumped a little. Still getting used to that, I grinned. Took me a while too. There was no jealousy, no discomfort, only a strange sense of relief. Knowing Mastro trusted someone else I trusted made everything feel steadier somehow. So, I said, standing up, take good care of him. I will, the doctor promised. I know you will. As I headed for the door, I looked back once more. And hey, welcome to the very small club of people Mastro actually lets close. The doctor smiled, resting his hand over his stomach again, this time not protectively, but gratefully. Happy to be a member. And somewhere inside him, unseen but content, Mastro quietly agreed. After you left the office, the room fell back into that easy quiet. The doctor leaned his head against the couch and let out a slow breath. Well, he murmured, that went better than I expected. Inside him, Mastro was already paying attention to things the doctor himself hadn't noticed. Your heart rate has increased, Mastro observed. The doctor blinked. Has it? Yes, it is elevated beyond what rest would suggest. He paused, clearly a little caught off guard. I thought you were just here to monitor stomach issues. I monitor everything, Mastro replied calmly. The doctor shifted, suddenly very aware of himself. Right, of course you do. A few seconds passed. Is something wrong? Mastro asked. No, no, I'm fine, the doctor said quickly. Your physiology suggests otherwise. The doctor rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. Okay, maybe not wrong, just awkward. Explain, he sighed, realizing there was no point in trying to hide it from something literally inside his body. My heart's racing because she was here, he admitted. Mastro went quiet for a moment. My host. Yeah, the doctor said. Your host. Another pause. Do you fear her? The doctor let out a small laugh. No, definitely not. Then why the reaction? He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Because she matters to me, he finally confessed. And knowing you're connected to her, knowing she trusts me, it makes me nervous in a good way. Mastro considered that. You care for her. The doctor nodded. I do. That is acceptable, Mastro said simply. The doctor smiled at the straightforward response. Glad I passed another test. Your intentions are genuine, Mastro replied. I can feel that. He exhaled, finally relaxing. Guess there's no hiding anything from you now, huh? Not while I am here. Fair enough. The doctor rested his hands behind his head, feeling oddly comforted by the honesty of the moment. So my racing heart isn't a medical emergency? No, Mastro answered. It is simply human. Good, the doctor said softly. For a while, he just sat there, calmer now, the earlier nerves fading, and somewhere inside him, quietly keeping watch, Mastro remained perfectly content to guard not just the doctor's body, but the secret he had just shared as well. Quiet again. Just the soft hum of the computer, the distant sounds of the hospital at night, and the steady rhythm of the doctor's breathing as he rested on the couch. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary moment. An exhausted physician catching a rare break. Inside, it was anything but ordinary. Mastro remained calmly within him, a silent presence that the doctor could now almost sense without even trying. There was no pressure, no discomfort, just a gentle awareness, like knowing someone you trust is sitting beside you. You seem calmer now, Mastro observed. Yeah, the doctor murmured. Guess having a guardian angel on internal duty helps. I am not an angel, Mastro corrected. Right. Guardian dragon, the doctor said with a tired smile. For a while, they simply existed together. No emergencies, no bad guys, no chaos, just peace. The doctor shifted slightly, resting his hands over his stomach again. You know, he said quietly, this is probably the safest I've ever felt in this hospital. That is the intention, Mastro replied. It's funny, the doctor continued. I spend my life making other people feel safe, but I don't think anyone's ever done that for me the way you do. There was a thoughtful pause. You protect many, Mastro said. You deserve protection as well. The doctor closed his eyes, letting that settle. Thanks, he said softly. A knock came at the door. Dr. Hale? You still here? A nurse called from the hallway. The doctor sat up with a small groan. Duty calls. Work resumes, Mastro said. Yep. He stood, straightened his scrubs, and took a steadying breath. Think you can stick around a little longer? Night shift still has a few hours left. I will remain as long as needed. The doctor smiled. Good. He stepped out of the office, back into the world of beeping monitors and waiting patients, calm, focused, and completely unaware to anyone else that he wasn't walking alone. Inside him, unseen and watchful, Mastro kept his promise, and for the first time in a long time, the doctor faced the rest of his shift with absolute confidence. No matter what came through those doors, he was safe. The rest of the shift unfolded like most nights do in a hospital, quiet for a while, then suddenly busy, then quiet again. To everyone else, Dr. Hale looked the same as always, calm under pressure, steady hands, a reassuring voice. No one knew he was working with a very unusual partner. Inside him, Mastro remained silent and observant, monitoring every subtle change, stress levels, fatigue, even the way the doctor's breathing shifted when a difficult case came in. You carry much responsibility, Mastro noted at one point. The doctor gave a small smile as he finished writing a chart. Comes with the job. You do not complain. Doesn't help anyone if I do. Mastro respected that. They moved through the night together, one visible, one unseen. Patients were treated, minor emergencies handled, worries eased. Nothing dangerous, nothing dramatic, just medicine. At one point, a young nurse noticed the doctor seemed unusually relaxed. You're in a good mood tonight, she said. Am I? He replied. Yeah, you've been smiling more than usual, he chuckled. Guess I've got good support. Coffee? She teased. Something like that. Only he knew how true and how strange that really was. As the hours passed, the earlier stomach discomfort faded completely. Mastro's presence had settled everything, smoothing tension the way a calm sea smooths rough waves. By the time dawn crept through the windows, the doctor finally returned to his office, exhausted but content. Long night, he sighed, sitting down. Yes, Mastro agreed. You've been quiet. Observe unless needed. The doctor rested his head back and closed his eyes. Well, you were definitely needed tonight, even if no one else knew it. A gentle warmth spread through him, Mastro's silent acknowledgement. Do you wish for me to leave now? Mastro asked. The doctor considered that. He was safe. The shift was ending. In theory, everything could return to normal, but normal suddenly felt a little less appealing. Maybe stay a bit longer, he admitted, just until I get home. I will remain. Thanks. For a moment, the doctor simply sat there, reflecting on how strange his life had become and how grateful he was for it. Never thought I'd have a guardian living inside me, he said quietly. Life is unpredictable, Mastro replied. That's an understatement. The doctor stood, grabbed his coat, and headed out into the morning light. Another shift finished. Another day survived. And as he walked through the waking city, he did so with a quiet confidence few people ever get to feel, the confidence of knowing he was never truly alone. Morning had just begun to stretch itself awake when I realized something. Mastro still hadn't come home. Normally, I could feel him nearby, like a quiet presence at the back of my thoughts. But today, there was only a faint, distant awareness, like he was somewhere close, but not with me. That never happened without a reason. So I went looking. My first stop was obvious, the hospital. If Mastro wasn't with me, there was only one other place he'd willingly spend his time. Dr. Hale. I walked through the lobby with a casual confidence I didn't quite feel, asking a few familiar faces if they'd seen him. He just finished a long shift, one nurse told me. Headed toward his office a little while ago. Bingo. I made my way down the corridor and found his door slightly ajar. I knocked softly and peeked in. There he was, packing up his things, looking tired but peaceful. Hey, I said, have you seen Mastro? The doctor paused. For just a split second, his hand moved protectively over his stomach again, the same gesture I'd noticed before. That was all the confirmation I needed. You found him, didn't you? I asked with a grin. He gave a sheepish smile, more like he found me. So he's still with you? Yes, the doctor admitted. Has been all night. I folded my arms, genuinely impressed. Inside you? Inside me. I let out a low whistle. Wow, he really trusts you. The doctor nodded. Apparently. I walked closer back, studying him curiously. And you're okay with it? More than okay, he said. Honestly, it's been comforting. That sounded exactly like something Mastro would do, quietly looking after someone he cared about without making a big deal out of it. Well, I said, smiling. I was starting to wonder where he ran off to. As if on cue, Mastro finally made his presence known. I am here, his familiar voice rumbled softly from within the doctor. I laughed. Yeah, I figured. The doctor looked a little embarrassed. Sorry if I borrowed him longer than expected. Don't be, I replied. If he stayed, it means you needed him. There was a small, comfortable silence. So, I said, leaning against the desk, You've officially joined the extremely exclusive club of people Mastro watches over from the inside. Feels that way, the doctor agreed. I smiled warmly. Take good care of him, I said. I always do, he answered. And with that, I knew exactly where Mastro had been all along. Not lost, not missing, just doing what he did best, protecting someone who mattered. Breakfast turned out to be more effective than the doctor expected. By the time we left the diner, he looked steadier, more awake, and noticeably fuller. Okay, he admitted as we walked. I may have overcorrected a little. I laughed. You went from forgot to eat to hibernation mode. He rested a hand over his stomach with a small groan. Yeah, definitely full. From inside him, Mastro shifted slightly. Your digestion is beginning, Mastro observed. Very observant. The doctor muttered. I can feel that part. There was a brief pause. It would be better if I allowed your body to process the food naturally, Mastro said. I should exit. The doctor blinked. You can just leave like that? Yes. Convenient. He found a quiet spot near the parking lot, away from other people, and took a slow breath. All right, he said. Whenever you're ready. There was no dramatic transformation, no discomfort, just that familiar, warm sensation lifting gently, like pressure easing from the inside. A faint blue glow shimmered for a moment, and Mastro stood beside him again, solid and present. The doctor exhaled in relief. Wow, he said, that feels better already. Your body requires space to work efficiently, Mastro replied. Good call. The doctor stretched, feeling oddly lighter, still getting used to the idea that you can just pop in and out like that. It is natural to me, Mastro said. I watched the exchange with a smile. So he's free again, I said. Yes, Mastro answered, but I will remain nearby. The doctor glanced at him. You don't have to stay. I'm fine now. I know, Mastro replied, but I choose to. That made the doctor pause. Even when you're not inside me? Especially then. A small, grateful smile crossed the doctor's face. Can't say I mind the company. Mastro settled beside him as we walked toward the car, falling into that familiar role, quiet guardian, steady presence. The doctor looked healthier now, calmer, more himself. Thanks, he said softly to Mastro, for everything, monitoring me, making sure I ate all of it. It is what I do, Mastro replied. Still, the doctor said, it means a lot. I nudged his shoulder playfully. See, personal dragon service has perks. Apparently, he laughed. As we headed off into the rest of the day, one thing was clear. Whether inside him or walking at his side, Mastro wasn't going anywhere. And the doctor, for the first time in a long while, didn't have to face anything alone. The calm never lasts as long as you hope it will. We were barely back near the hospital parking lot when a man stepped out from between two cars, blocking the doctor's path. He wasn't confused. He wasn't lost. He was angry. So you're the one, the man said, pointing straight at the one protected by that thing. The doctor stopped short. Excuse me. I heard what happened to my friend, the man snapped. About the creature that swallowed him. My stomach tightened. This wasn't random. This was revenge. The doctor raised his hands calmly. I don't know what you think you know, but don't lie to me, the man shouted, stepping closer. He never came back because of you. The tension in the air changed instantly. Inside the doctor, Mastro stirred. You are being threatened, Mastro said quietly. Yeah, the doctor muttered under his breath, noticing that. The man reached into his coat. That was enough. A soft blue glow shimmered around the doctor, and before the man could take another step, Mastro emerged, solid, towering, and very real. One moment, the doctor was alone. The next, a massive black figure stood between him and the attacker. The man froze. That's the thing, he whispered. Mastro lowered his head, eyes glowing, voice calm and final. I do not tolerate harm to those under my protection. The bad guy took a shaky step back. You killed my friend. Your friend chose violence, Mastro replied evenly. I chose to end it. The doctor watched silently, heart pounding, not in fear, but in the tense awareness of what was unfolding. Mastro stepped forward, not to attack, but to make a point. Every movement was controlled, deliberate, overwhelming in its presence alone. You came here seeking the same path, Mastro said. I suggest you reconsider. The man tried to keep his bravado. Or what? Mastro's teeth glinted in the light as he opened his jaws slightly, not as a threat of gore or chaos, just a clear, undeniable reminder of capability. Or you will learn exactly what your friend learned. No violence, no rush, just truth. The bad guy's courage evaporated. He took another step back, then another. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Mastro said, but you still have a choice. The man looked at the doctor, then at me, then at the massive creature blocking his way. Finally, he turned and ran. Gone. Silence returned. The doctor let out a breath he'd been holding. Well, that was effective. Mastro turned back to him, calm once more. You are safe. The doctor nodded slowly. Yeah, I definitely am. I stepped closer, still shaken but relieved. Guess word got around. Yes, Mastro said, and now it will spread further. The doctor gave a tired smile. Hopefully as a warning this time. Mastro inclined his head. That was the intention. No one was hurt, Frau. No one was swallowed. But the message was clear. Those who threatened the doctor would always find something far bigger standing in their way. And after that day, very few would ever be foolish enough to try again. Trouble has a way of repeating itself. Not even a full day later, another shadow stepped into the doctor's path. Different face, same hard expression, same intention written all over him. Word had clearly traveled. The man approached fast, angry, and reckless. You think you can hide behind that monster forever? The doctor stopped, already recognizing the pattern. I don't want any trouble. You already made it my business, the man snapped. Before the doctor could even take a step back, Mastro moved. He didn't roar. He didn't lunge. He simply placed himself between them, massive, immovable, undeniable. I have grown tired of these interruptions, Mastro said calmly. The attacker tried to circle around him. Mastro shifted instantly, blocking every angle, every attempt. You will not touch him, Mastro continued. The man's bravado wavered, but desperation pushed him forward again. Get out of my way! Mastro's stomach gave a low, resonant growl. I have not eaten, he said quietly, and you insist on becoming a problem. The doctor, standing safely behind him, sighed. Really wish they'd stop testing you. The bad guy made one final foolish attempt to rush past. That was the moment Mastro decided the lesson was over. With smooth, controlled precision, no chaos, no struggle, he ended the threat the same way he always did. Efficiently. Finally. One decisive motion. Silence returned. Mastro turned back to the doctor as if nothing unusual had occurred. You are unharmed? The doctor nodded, a little stunned but not afraid. Yeah, thanks to you. Protection sometimes requires repetition, Mastro said. The doctor let out a slow breath. I'm starting to notice a pattern. From somewhere unseen, a faint rumble confirmed the matter was settled. The message, once again, was clear. Those who came seeking harm would simply disappear from the equation. Not through cruelty, not through rage, but through certainty. The doctor straightened his coat and gave Mastro a tired smile. Guess that makes you officially the most effective security system in the world. Mastro inclined his head. I intend to remain so. And as they walked away together, Guardian and the man he had chosen to protect, the world grew just a little safer, one foolish threat at a time. The threat was over in seconds, but the moment didn't feel finished. The doctor stood beside Mastro, still catching his breath when he noticed something, faint movement, a muffled sound echoing from deep within the creature. He looked up at Mastro. He's still alive in there, isn't he? Yes, Mastro replied calmly. The doctor hesitated, then stepped a little closer, lowering his voice. Hey, he called toward the sound. Listen to me. From inside, the bad guy's panic was obvious. Frantic struggling, desperate and confused. Let me out! Please! Let me out! The doctor sighed. You need to stop fighting. The muffled voice shouted back, fear cracking through every word. Your friend in there is very strong, the doctor continued evenly. Struggling isn't going to help you. In fact, it's only going to wear you out faster. Mastro shifted slightly, reinforcing the point without any cruelty, just firm containment. He will not be harmed, Mastro said aloud, but he will remain restrained. The doctor nodded. Exactly. You're not being punished. You're being stopped. The struggling slowed. The man inside finally seemed to realize that nothing he did was changing his situation. What's going to happen to me? The voice asked. Much smaller now. The doctor answered calmly. You're going to be held safely until the authorities arrive. No more threats. No more violence. A long, defeated silence followed. Mastro lowered his head toward the doctor. He is no longer resisting. Good, the doctor said quietly. That's the smartest choice he's made all day. The tension drained from the scene. No chaos, no harm. just control. The doctor looked up at Mastro with a small, relieved smile. Thanks for handling that, without going too far. Mastro inclined his head. I protect life, he replied, even when it does not deserve it. Sirens could already be heard in the distance. The lesson, this time, didn't end in destruction. It ended in restraint, and a second chance the attacker probably never expected. Sirens grew louder outside. Red and blue lights spilled across the pavement, reflecting off the hospital windows as security and police rushed toward the scene. Staff gathered at a distance, whispering, confused about what had happened so quickly and so quietly. The doctor stood beside Mastro, steady now, watching the response unfold. They're here, he said. Yes, Mastro replied. Officers approached cautiously, weapons lowered but ready, unsure what they were walking into. Their training had prepared them for many things. A towering, calm, dragon-like guardian was not one of them. The doctor stepped forward first, raising his hands gently. It's under control, he told them. No one is hurt. The officers exchanged uncertain looks, eyes shifting from the doctor to the massive creature beside him. Sir, one of them said carefully, what exactly is going on here? Mastro lowered his head slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. A threat was stopped, he said simply. The officers clearly had no protocol for this. The doctor intervened, keeping his tone calm and professional. The individual attempted violence, he's restrained and can be taken into custody safely. One officer frowned. Restrained? Where? Mastro spoke before the doctor could answer. He is contained. A heavy silence followed. The doctor quickly added, he can be released unharmed. Mastro turned his gaze toward him. Is that your wish? The doctor met his eyes. Yes. He gets a chance to face consequences the right way. Mastro considered this, then he nodded. A faint blue glow pulsed along his chest. With slow, controlled precision, he lowered his head and allowed the restrained man to be released safely onto the ground, shaken, terrified, but completely unharmed. The attacker scrambled backward, gasping, immediately surrounded by officers. Don't let that thing near me, he cried. But Mastro did not move. He simply watched, calm and silent. The police secured the man, confusion written all over their faces, but the situation was undeniably resolved. No injuries, no destruction, just a stopped threat. One of the officers approached the doctor quietly. You want to explain what that is? The doctor glanced at Mastro, then back at the officer. A protector, he said simply. The answer raised more questions than it resolved, but there was no arguing with the results. As the authorities handled the situation, the tension slowly faded. The crowd dispersed. The noise settled. Mastro turned to the doctor. You chose mercy. I chose balance, the doctor replied. You taught me that. Mastro seemed to approve. You continue to learn. The doctor smiled faintly, from a very unusual teacher. A moment later, I approached them, having watched everything unfold from a distance. You handled that well, I told the doctor. He shrugged modestly. Good guidance. Mastro stood quietly between us, guardian to both, protector without hesitation, but never without purpose. For the first time since the threats had begun, the hospital grounds felt truly secure, not because danger had disappeared, but because something stronger stood ready to meet it. And this time, the lesson had not been fear. It had been restraint. Time passed quietly after the long night. The hospital returned to its endless rhythm, patients arriving, staff moving through their routines, the world settling back into something that looked like normal. The doctor worked, rested, and carried on, always aware of the steady presence beside him. But Mastro felt something else. A pull. Not urgency, not danger. A quiet call from the one he had first sworn to protect. One evening, as the doctor finished his shift in the dim light of his office, Mastro spoke. It is time. The doctor looked up from his desk. Time? I must return to my host. A small silence filled the room. The doctor had always known this moment would come. Mastro had never truly been his, only temporarily beside him. Still, the thought left an unexpected heaviness in his chest. Oh, he said quietly. Right. Mastro watched him carefully. You will remain protected. I will come if you call. The doctor gave a faint smile. I know. Still, things will feel quieter. Yes. He closed his notebook and stood facing the massive creature who had saved his life more than once, guarded his sleep, and stood beside him through danger. Thank you, the doctor said sincerely, for everything. You were worthy of protection, Mastro replied. That means more than you think. A soft blue glow shimmered around Mastro as his form began to fade, not vanishing abruptly, but dissolving like shadow into light. Continue your work, he said. Protect life. I will. And then he was gone. I felt him before I saw him. That familiar warmth returned, steady, grounding, like something lost finally finding its way home. I looked up from where I was resting, already knowing. Mastro? The faint glow gathered before me, and his form emerged, settling beside me with quiet certainty. You have returned, I said softly. Yes. There was no dramatic reunion, just the calm understanding between us, the bond that had always been there. You were helping him, I said. He required protection. I smiled. And now? Now I remain where I began. He rested beside me, massive and calm, the faint glow beneath his scales steady and peaceful. Yet somewhere far away in a quiet hospital office, a doctor paused in his work and felt a strange sense of reassurance, like a promise lingering in the air. Mastro had returned home, but his watch had not ended. It had only grown.